What is going on? What is going on? What is going on? Mm-mm. So, I'm just freestyling this evening um, with a skull, and then I'll just put um, Kratos's head tattoo thing on there. Just using a real reference skull and then change it up just a bit. No, I don't know. It could be for a tattoo, but I don't think so. Just messing around. Um, I actually just left the shop not too long ago. It was kind of slow this Tuesday, so. But how are you doing this evening? You know what? This could be a good tattoo. Now that I think about it, and maybe that's what I was thinking at some point, but um, now that you said it, it kind of solidifies it. Um, and so yeah, I'm kind of just roughing stuff out right now. Nothing real serious at the moment. I kind of already know what a skull looks like. I've drawn so many of them, um, and then I just take it and flip it. So here is a reference, kind of, sort of. It's one of those skulls. I think I got this from Georgia Tech. I'm sorry it's so close to the screen. The way I got the camera position, but it's pretty cool. It's got the whole um, spring thingy for the jaw. You can actually probably put a brain in here. I know some of them have a stand. I got one at the shop that has a stand, and you could put the pin up through his bottom of his skull, and it'll kind of just, yeah, you kind of get the hint. This will go back on there properly. Be in business. All right. I just use the smelly. What's the smelly app? I want to know what a new smelly app is. And so like when you're drawing, for me anyway, when I'm drawing a skull, oh, Skully app. Um, Typically, skull eyes are just round. Well, they're not perfect circles, but they almost look like the dude or whoever the human was is sad because they kind of like droop downwards like that. But since this is Kratos, you want to kind of give him the mean eyes, like so. You kind of just fudge it a little bit. So they typically would be up here, but because we want him to be mean and have that scowl and kind of just bend him down a little bit. Nothing too major. Um, there's a lot of layering on this human skull that when I first started drawing, I was like totally unaware of. Just like the socket of the eye, it's very, um, to me, it seems dense, which is one reason I love anatomy. Um, just so much happening in the human body. Um, so much detail. Like, geez. I mean, I love to draw detail, but I can be just a little bit ridiculous with the detail. So, well, I hope y'all been having a good day. So, I guess it's still considered the beginning of the week. Um, Nothing too much, nothing serious happening in my direction. Just still grinding on that tattoo stuff. I'm sure y'all have seen me post about tattoos and come get a tattoo. It's a hustle, man. I mean, I love it. Don't get me wrong, but you definitely gotta hustle. I guess that's with anything, but even giving away free tattoos is still you gotta hustle and make sure people want the tattoo. And yes, man, I'm doing all right. Like I said, I can't complain. I mean, I could, but that would get old quick. So, but yeah, as far as the hustle, and that's like like I said, with anything. I mean, especially the arts, like the arts. Um, I think we were talking last time, and I think like being a lawyer is way easier than being an artist. Like, and not just like uh, visual artists, like with traditional mediums, like painting or a muralist or something like that. I think any artist. So like, even if you're in the industry, it's still hard because um, like say I was working on Infinity War or something, because I had a ton of friends working on that. Um, and it was good to see their names in the credits and stuff. But I want to say 3 to 6 months before that movie is over, they got to start looking for another gig. Like if they're in like, and a lot of people now are doing, like contract work and working with smaller studios and stuff like that. Like you got to get out there and hustle and find another gig. Um, I guess heck, if somebody was to be starting their own law firm or something, they'd have to hustle too. But I don't know. I just feel like with lawyers and doctors, well, some doctors, but lawyer and in jobs where you can just memorize stuff and don't really have to think of new stuff all the time. I think that's why I like tattooing. And I know I'm rambling and jumping all over the place, but When I tattoo, and I do walk-ins too, so I still haven't gotten to the point where I've done so many of the same tattoos. I hear the guys at the shop always saying like, "Oh, you'll get tired of um, doing infinity symbols," because people come in and get the same tattoos over and over. I guess is what they're um, talking about. But I hadn't had that experience yet, and I need to work to where I don't have that experience. I don't want to, like I said, I do walk-ins, and I don't mind doing them because I'm still learning. Everyone's still learning, but I want to get it to where my clients know, like, hey, the Mad Penciler does this type of work, and that's what he's going to do. That's what I'm hiring him to do. Um, I think it's raining pretty bad out there, so if we get cut off, you'll have to excuse moi. Uh-huh. There it is. Put this tattoo on Kratos real quick. So, this is eyebrow. All right, well, I'll stop talking until somebody jumps back in here. Um, that's kind of where I'm at. This is kind of all faded. And right now, I'm kind of just freestyling. Like, there's no real rhyme or reason to why I'm doing some some of these things. Like I said, I just know that there's a lot of layering, and it's almost like what kind of stone is that the skull reminds me of? Like slate or something. Like if you look at slate, there's a lot of like layers, and if you drop slate, it breaks into like these plate chips, and I feel like the skull is like that. So like there's just layers and layers and layers of um, bone or material in the skull that I feel like that's kind of what I'm doing, just layering stuff to give that effect that there's a lot of stuff happening. Um, and again, with a skull, there's a lot of things that it's not doing that I need to make it do to sell it being um, Kratos, and that he's angry, upset about something. I don't know why that dude is always so angry. Um, I played the game, the new one, didn't care for it too much. Um, so I gave it to my son, and I guess he likes it a lot. So um, maybe I didn't get too far into the story enough or something, but I just was not feeling it. Like I didn't like the motion, the movement, or anything. But I liked the first one that was out, um, and I liked the concept, but I just wasn't feeling this one. And I always like lately I've been finding myself doing this, and I shouldn't be. I should start on this side first um, when drawing, especially like with traditional medium or excuse me, pencil or something like that. Because if you start on this side, obviously you got to go back over here and draw, and you have the risk of smearing it. But if you start here and just work that way, it's kind of like opposite of doing tattoos as well. Um, you want to start this way because you put a stencil on a person's skin, and as you're tattooing, you got to wipe away the excess ink, and you also end up wiping away the stencil. So you don't want to smudge or get the stencil all jacked up, and you won't be able to see what you're doing. So it's the opposite, but um, like I said, I don't know why I've been doing that lately. Just driving on the wrong side of the road. I think I was saying, I don't know if you guys heard me, but it's raining pretty bad here. So if something happens as far as the connection, then that's why I'm not egging you guys or egging. So that's here, and so here's me using landmarks. I'm looking at like this part of the forehead on a skull. So I want it to be like over here, kind of, sort of. So I think my eye is pretty good. I'll turn the paper sideways if that helps. and I kind of just come over from right there and just make sure this line is parallel to the edge of that. It's a very light line. Um, so now when I turn it, I could see some stuff. It's almost right. So this is center. Um, I'm using that same light line that I drew. I'm looking like the distance between the top of that brow and that line, and it's about the same. So that's cool. The distance below there, like this can probably drop some, and that'll give me a nice little crease right there to add shading and draw or whatever. Um, the center line I'm also using like the distance from here to the beginning of the socket, and then this socket is pretty much okay as well. With a skull, you don't have to be fully, especially if you're drawing like a creepy skull or something, or um, something that doesn't have to be ana- anatomically correct. I think that's the right word. You can fudge and get away with some stuff like so. This is more coming to a point, and this one is more rounded. So to distract people from looking at that, I can add like a flare here, kind of like how this will flare up a little bit. There's some flares here. So it'll give the appearance that it's a little more rounder and this is more rounder, but also because I cut this hand some, it's dropping back down to become a point. So those are some of the things I'll be looking at when I'm drawing. Um, and you guys only see the finished stuff when I post it on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. But and so like even when I'm drawing commission for somebody's uncle, and I kind of got his center line. He's kind of looking up that way and smiling. I don't know if you guys could see that. I hadn't started his mouth yet because that's just a tough area to draw, especially when it's open and you got teeth and uh, um, but it kind of right now it's just mapped out, and I like kind of where it's going. So um, I need to have that finished probably by tomorrow or sometime the end of the week. I have to check, um, but yeah. So I'm thinking of a lot of things as I'm drawing. Like I'm not just slapping down pencil lines, and there's a lot happening. And so also with this center line and that, I guess we can call that the brow line, um, from Cali on the plane. I Big D. Um, I can look at several other things. So, like I was saying, the distance between the eyebrow and that line are pretty much cool. So now I want to look at the distance from the end of this eye socket here to the edge of his skull. And again, I'm just eyeballing it. Um, so I'll do that a few times and kind of get the right stroke, if you will. Like instead of grabbing a ruler and measuring it, I'll just keep doing that until I feel like I got it, and then I'll come over here and do the same thing. So that needs to be out a lot more. Um, Drawing some arms did man. All right, that's what's up. Who's that? Davis. All right, cool, cool. And so I'm still, like I said, just figuring out stuff. Um, if that's like that, it's coming from here to there. Oh, okay. It's not that far. I went from the inside. So I'm going from this edge of the socket to the edge of the skull. Whoop. whoop. So yeah, um, probably a quarter of an inch, and um, and so kind of where the jawbone starts protruding out is like right under the socket. It's it's happening about right there. Um, and so I can just kind of I'm looking back. I keep flipping back and forth, if you will, and it doesn't have to be fully that length. Like it could be a little shorter or a little further out, but you want it to be balanced because you're looking at the skull head on, so it needs to be somewhat um, balanced and correct. You know, if you had the whole 3/4 view or something, then you'd have to, you know, do something else. Um, and so with that, I had to, because obviously with that distance coming out on both ends, it widened up the skull, uh, forehead and dome area up a little bit. So just that's the stuff I think about when I'm drawing. Hey, and Invis, was that you that sent me some stuff last week? I think I looked at it. I didn't get a chance to comment on it yet or reply back to you, but I will do that as soon as as soon as I'm done with this. Mm-hmm. My bad. Um, what had happened was, um, nah, I just got jammed up. Like I said, I seen the email when you sent it, and I just didn't get a chance to reply back. So, actually, I'll write it here. Reply to in this email after live. If I don't do it this time, then like you can drop kick me in the neck or something. Trying to get your hands from looking blocky. You talking about when you're practicing them? Yeah. So when you do the blocky, um, just keep doing blocky first to be comfortable. You know what I'm saying? Like, cause even at blocky, you don't really have to flesh it out per se. Like if you're doing heck, we'll just do my hand, right? So I'm gonna just look at my hand, but it's gonna be out here a little bit. So if I look at my hand, I'm gonna draw this in pen so you can see it. Um, if I can find my pen, this whole damn case over here, and I ain't got the pen I want. All right, hold up. There we go. All right, so if I look at my hand, and I'm kind of just like going to draw it like that, but kind of a little perspective. So right now I'm drawing that palm shape, right? And it's just blocky, right? If I add the finger shapes, again, straight blocky, like I'm not doing nothing special. For me, and again, this is just my style, I prefer blocky. Because now I don't have to worry about you know, the skin and the wrinkles. The wrinkles tend to make hands look old. So unless that's what you're going for, like, um, I don't even add the wrinkles. Like, I might add uh, like one line just so you understand, and it reads as we know the thumb will bend here, like that. But other than that, my stuff is gonna stay blocky. And then I'll make sure I add my wrist as a bump. That's one of the reference points I use. And there, to me, that's a hand. I'm done. Um, and when I say flesh out, like, you can add a few things. Like I said, that little thing, you might want to add one or two above it or below it, very faint and light. You can add a thumbnail, but again, that would be real light because you, as you start doing stuff, you start muddying it up, and you just want to read the hand. You know what I'm saying? You want to read what the hand is doing and what it's saying, because you can mess up a piece by adding too much to the hand, and you don't want to do that until you just get really, better at doing hands. But as of right now, especially if you're drawing like characters or something, and want that um, hand to read, like, he's grabbing something or stretching or doing whatever, that's all you need to send a message of doing that. And then people be like, oh my God, that hand is dope. I'm like, yeah, it's just a block. And so now, like I said, because I should have drew starting on this side before I went to this side, because now, if I'm not careful, if I don't turn a page a certain way, blue um, lead will start forming as I'm smearing, and that'll start fading and get a smeared look of which I don't want. So I'll have to pay attention a little bit as I'm doing this. Um, and again, I'm still over here. I don't know why I've adopted of doing this the wrong way, but eh. And again, I'm kind of just looking back and forth, seeing what this side looks like compared to the other side. Um, Invis, did that help at all? What I was saying about with the hands? Hope it did. Um, and then, this is kind of like I said, unless you're drawing this to be anatomically correct, you can pretty much do what you want with the skull. And kind of right now, I'm kind of just feeling around it, um, kind of seeing how this will work out. If I really want him to have teeth, if not, I think I like the teeth down here, the rotted out joints. there. Yeah. And again, just like looking at real reference will help you get the proportions right. Um, because there's just no other way to measure that, you know what I'm saying, unless you look at real life stuff and draw it. Um, and then, this is just me adding some me to it. Um, like the sketchy kind of um, shadowing and shading and all that stuff. Um, and heck, I've just been drawing for so long. I mean, it just takes a while, to get a style, if you will. I don't know. Some people get one quicker than others, but you kind of pick up styles because there's nothing new under the sun. I'm sure you guys heard that. And so now, what happens is you see your, favorite comic artists, um, favorite painters, whatever. There's going to be a bunch of them that are better than you, and you kind of just start looking, admiring their work, and it's like, oh man, I like the way. It's like I for the life of me, I don't know where I picked up doing these thick lines. I want to say I was in this group a long time ago on where was it? I want to say it was just the internet, I guess, when you would have like forums and you built forums. Um, and the name of the forum and the group was called Leadheads, and it was guys that either was trying to get in the industry or just got in, um, and they only used pencils. And so I was a part of that group, and I think I seen somebody who would post a lot, and their pieces would have like these thick outlines, and I just thought like I have got to add that to what I do. Um, and at first, it was some of them was too thick, some wasn't thick enough, and I still will vary between how thick and how thin that line will be, but that's just me picking up somebody else's little bit of stilo. Um, that's what I thought when I saw your stuff. What you thought? What? Um, A lot of my influence, like I like a lot of detail work, so um, I have to add those things. Right? It's just dope. Um, but I seen McFarlane, like I like a lot of his like early Spawn, early Spider-Man and Hulk work, and it was just because comics weren't doing that level of detail. He started that stuff, um, and like with Spider-Man having like excess webbing just everywhere on a panel, he would have that, and Eric Conte for yeah, he's dope too. Um, and so that's just it, man. You know, so I'll add like just line work here for no reason, and it's because of him. Um, I try not to overdo it because he still overdoes it. But people always say I have like a Joe Mad type of style, and so he was another like when I seen Battle Chasers, um, I was like, whoa, this stuff right here is sick, and some of his style kind of just flew off on me, so where I picked it up. Um, so yeah, just keep at it. Find some good artists to that you are, proud to mimic a little bit, and just start adding your own flavor to stuff. And that's how I feel like styles are developed. People are just like, yeah, it'll come. Yeah, it will, but one you have to draw a lot to. But um, people always want to know like what's the formula for it, and there isn't one. It's a lot of things. Like I said, just looking at other artists is probably the main way of how you get a style. Because whenever you draw, somebody will always come back and be like, "Oh man, that's just like so and so," or "Oh man, you got this style kind of like." And I'm sure those artists heard the same thing too. So, so with this, I think I'll put like a kind of light line there, so I know where I want to stop, and then I'll just lightly go over everything, and you'll see what this does in a second. Um, and I don't think the first pass is enough, so I'm gonna go over it one more time. Just going over it very light. Trying to keep the strokes pretty even. And so now it pushed, because it's a shadow, I probably need to go even a little darker. But now push that socket in the back. Yeah. And that's how you do a lot of shadow and, light source type things. Um, because since I'm drawing with a pencil, I don't have the option of using um, Photoshop and layers and slapping another layer over top of it. Um, and I need this to all be an even tone, but at the same time, I still want you to see the detail and the line work and all that stuff. So, yeah, yeah. And I'll add some here. to add a tooth up here. And then like for teeth and all that stuff, like that grungy stuff, like I'm always just thinking like some rotted corpse. You know what I'm saying? Um, Teeth are bone. They're kind of splitting and doing their own thing as they're aging even further and decay and all that stuff. Um, Drawing with the charcoal pencil for the first time, maybe that's why stuff. Oh yeah, man, that's the purpose of streaming, and and that's another reason why it's so cheap. Like, I mean, and I'll stream sometimes on like Instagram or something, just so the people who haven't like do the monthly thing or whatever. But um, I want to give you guys as much information as I can, um, especially if like people were wanting to break into either the industry or just want to get better at art or whatever. Um, I was going to go on Twitch and do it there, but I'm not sure how that works. Well, I take that back. I know a little bit, but it just seemed like extra work. One, to get people to move from here, from Patreon over to Twitch, and I've already started, you know, getting people to come on this. So I think Twitch may be something else down the road. Um, I think so. I want those to bend over a little bit. So Kratos has, that tattoo on his face. Um, but for this, if you kind of look at what I'm doing here, I'll have to paper up some because I know um, the brow is a bump. So if you kind of profile it, and this will be jacked up, but there's a bump here, and then the eye kind of goes, the socket goes in. This is the brow, and you have the forehead, and then the nose kind of does whatever. Right, you got the jaw. You kind of get it. So it's a skull. But just a slight bend right here shows that there's some uh, 3D happening, if you will. Um, and in the same kind of here, I can kind of, let me see, go under or like that. I'd probably go a little bit like that and then bring it back out. So go under, bring it back out. Appreciate you. And so like on Kratos, this ending of the tattoo is probably like right here. So you have like your lips here. Can y'all let me see? You got your lips here, your nose, eyes, all that. I think that tattoo comes about to right here, but since it's a skull and I want to show it, I'll shorten it and then because parts of the skull kind of concave in a little bit right here. So now we can either go either way. Um, I want to say it'll be like that. And then just those little wiggles, instead of it just being straight, those little bumps here, right here, sell that tattoo is laid over top of some uh, definition, if you will, of the skull. Uh, Hope I wasn't rambling. I hope that made sense. And with this, so I know there's and I keep drawing that, but maybe it doesn't need to be a hard line, or maybe it does. Maybe I'll be happy with it. But the same with how I've done the eyes here with that shading. I'll do something pretty similar up under here so you can understand that it goes up under. And there's no light hitting that, so that's kind of the reason. I think though I want to add a few just some designy stuff to show that there's kind of ridges and stuff up under here. And I will do the same thing, like, with all of this stuff, and I'll do the same thing over here. A lot of that's already probably been happening. Um, and then it's a little invisible line here, and I could probably just see them in my head without having to actually do that, but I'm kind of just wanting to show you guys, like, that's what I'm thinking about when I do the shading and shadowing and stuff. So and again, I'll try and keep it as consistent as possible as far as like the tone. So I want a nice flat smooth tone. I don't want to see any, like, those little lines. I don't want to see that in this part that I'm doing. So I'm going over this extremely light. And then I'll go over it in another direction. And after a while, once this lead has been built up, you can kind of press a little harder and then blend it out. You won't see any line work because there's just so many layers of being crisscrossed and cross hatched and all that stuff. So So now we got a little depth happening in the piece. You always want something, you know, a lot of times I don't draw background and foreground and all that stuff. Um, like if someone was painting or something, heck, even some people that use pencil, but I don't know, I just like what I draw. I'm not a background person in general, so I will probably never draw backgrounds. But I mean, they still are necessary. So, and even if like I'm not drawing like a countryside background, still even with tattoos, I want to think of a background, foreground, and middle ground. So with this, I would probably do like the God of War symbol or something, like the logo, but maybe like a triangle or something, or something to tie it together in the background. And since I wasn't thinking fully tattoo, I know Farah said something about tattoo. I'd have planned like a background. I could probably still get away with a leaf or something up here and kind of one falling in the back like that. But as you can see, that's kind of weird because it's not really thought out. It's just last last minute thinking. Um, and for this, I can kind of just add some really light stuff coming off of his forehead to show. Again, there's some movement happening up here. There's some, definition and stuff happening. And then what I do, I kind of just like, sometimes I don't even finish the head. I just let it fade off up there. Um, I don't think there's no need to do that unless, I'm doing something for a client and they specifically say finish the head, which finish the head. Um, I just don't see a need to do it. And I think that's just my style as well. Um, so now I'm kind of just noodling and adding little details here and there. Skull has some holes in it too, for whatever reason. I don't know, pressure. Oh, no doubt, man. No doubt. I want to add a little more darkness to this part just to sell it a little more. And because that tattoo on Kranos is red, I'll just grab like a simple red pen and kind of just outline it. Just so I kind of sell that it's who this is. Um, but then again, that's the thing with traditional medium, right? Is that like I want to go in and shade some of this red in the whole tattoo. Like I don't even know. I might want to color the whole thing red, but I don't know what that's going to do to it. So if it was digital, I could simply color it red, and if it looks jacked up, you know, undo. There is no undo. So I'll go like really light. I mean, because in my mind, I think it'll look okay. I don't think it'll be really bad or anything, but um, it's just that you just never know type of thing. So, yeah, I don't think I'm going to do too much more with the red. I don't want to jack it up. I feel like if I keep going, I will. But now you kind of really get like, oh, that's who that is. And so, yeah, Envis, I still got your message here. I'm going to get ready to sign out here, but I will look at your email that you sent a while back, give you some pointers and tips, and then you can go forth and draw more. Right now, I'm just kind of messing around, but as always, I do appreciate y'all for hanging out, support, all that good stuff. I will send a link to this live tomorrow, sometime in the morning, my time zone, I guess, Eastern. But again, if you got any questions or anything, just hit me up. Um, and that is Kratos with the tattoo on his skull head. Maybe somebody killed him. I don't know. But yeah, appreciate y'all and peace out. Until next week. Get close up, see some of that detail.